My name is Daniel. I'm 73. And I'm disappearing. Not literally, my body is still here, my heart is beating, my lungs are breathing. But it's like the noise of an old TV without a signal, something is still working, but nothing is being transmitted anymore. I live on the edge of the city, in a house that once smelled of coffee, papers, women and happiness. Now, only damp wallpaper, creaking floors and silence that sounds louder than a scream. Everything is in its place here, a kettle, an old blanket that smells of dust and mint, a leather-bound notebook, a TV that I turned on for the last time before the pandemic. The sound is off. I don't need to hear. I know everything anyway. My children are successful. Konstantin is the owner of a chain of coffee shops, Alina is abroad, has an aesthetic medicine clinic. They call once a month. And then, more out of duty. My grandchildren, they have other worlds. iPhones, $1,000 sneakers, stories. To them, I'm like an old clock in the living room, it still ticks, but everyone has long since gotten used to its sound and doesn't notice. They don't say, "Good morning," to me in the store. They sigh at me in lines. In the hospital, when I try to ask something, the nurse leans over to the doctor and says, "But he doesn't understand anything anymore." I hear. I understand. I see everything. My life is not loneliness. No. It's a dissolution. Like ink in water, a moment ago there was a stroke, and now it's a shadow. And so, every morning, I get out of bed again. Quietly. Without unnecessary movements. I make tea. I take a pen. I open a notebook. I write the date. Under it is silence. Because yesterday there was nothing new. Today there will be. Some say that old age is peace. A lie. It's a chamber with mirrored walls, where you see everything you've lost. But the worst thing is to see those to whom you gave everything and realize that they have already written you off. But I am not going to die a shadow. No. Something is still burning inside me. Like ashes in a fireplace, where a light breath is enough to ignite a fire. I was silent for a long time. I forgave. But something changed. It came quietly, like a winter wind that first pinches your cheek and then cuts to the bone. It was a realization. No one remembers who I was. But I remember. And now I don't need to be heard. I need to be felt again. Without words. Without shouting. Without requests. I haven't forgiven. And I don't plan to anymore. I sit on an old chair with a cracked back. My fingers clenched the handle. They remember. They remember the numbers, the deals, the glances across the negotiating table that were bullets, but I didn't blink. This house once belonged to a man they admired. A man who wasn't afraid to lose because he knew how to gain. That was me. I wasn't always a shadow. I used to be a storm. I was 29 when I first realized, the world is not an accident. It's a structure. And structures can either be built or broken. I chose the former. In the stormy 90s, when others were drinking, I looked for opportunities. I bought for pennies, sold for ideas. While my friends were in prison or hiding in villages, I opened offices. One by one. I wasn't building a business, I was building an empire. Without gold, but with iron in my blood. I wasn't cruel. I was honest. And that was my advantage. People followed me not out of fear, but out of respect. When my partner betrayed me, I didn't destroy him. I made him leave himself. And a year later he asked for it back. I didn't accept it. When the bank refused to give them a loan, I brought them their internal analytics, even before they saw it themselves. They gave the loan the next day. I kept everything on myself, business, family, fears, the war in my head. I invested in my son's education when I had to mortgage my car. I went to court when they wanted to squeeze my company. I was torn between meetings and children's matinees, between hospitals and conferences. I fought when others gave up. And I never asked. And now, sitting in my pajamas, I don't hear the voices that used to ring every hour. Now my phone is silent. Silence is the worst sentence for someone who was once the center of all events. I remember my son shaking before his first exam, and how I studied math with him all night. Now he doesn't answer the phone. I remember how I washed the hospital floor at night so that the nurse wouldn't wake Alina up after the operation. Now she writes me letters on Messenger, she doesn't bother me with her voice. They all live for today. They think that memory is an archive. No. Memory is a weapon. And it's sharper than any knife. They forgot who held the sky above their heads when they were 6. They forgot who saved every penny so that they would have a future. I didn't expect gratitude. But indifference is something else entirely. It's like after all the battles you fought, you're just taken off your pedestal, and no one asks how you're doing. They don't even say goodbye. Maybe I was too strong. Too confident. And they are used to me always pulling out. That I am armor that does not rust. But now, when they see me hunched over, in their eyes there is not sympathy, but disgust. Because they are afraid to see weakness in someone who was steadfast. But there is one mistake they made. They thought that I had disappeared. But I did not disappear. I am simply preserved. Real pain isn't the one that screams. It's the one that drips onto the same spot every day. Like water on a stone. Quietly. Methodically. Without emotion. Dad, I'm at a rally, I'll write later, Kostiantin says dryly into the phone. I'm silent. I hear a click, he's already hung up. Later has been the 5th week. I don't call anymore. I just put the phone next to me when I'm drinking tea, in case he remembers. He doesn't remember. My grandson comes once a month. He sits opposite, his feet on the table. He writes something on his phone. Grandpa, have you ever watched TikTok? He giggles. No, I say. You probably don't even know how to turn on the internet. And laughter again. He's having fun. I ask him to help me carry the bag of groceries to the kitchen, the bottles in it are heavy, his back hurts. He grimaces as if I've asked for something shameful. Yes, I'm in a hurry, next time. And runs away. At the door he calls out again, by the way, I'm moving soon, closer to the center. It's cooler there. I stand in the hallway with this bag, and something inside me tightens. Not because of the weight. Because of the ease with which he left the house. I'm scheduled for an examination at the hospital. I'm 7 minutes late. The secretary looks at me as if at an empty seat. You're not young, you could leave earlier. Sit down, maybe we'll take it after the queue, she says and turns to the monitor. I'm not called. An hour later a young doctor comes in and nods to the nurse, take the grandfather away, he doesn't understand anything anyway. I heard. Every word. I leave. It's cold outside, my hands are shaking. The package slips from my fingers. Tomatoes roll across the asphalt, milk spills. 2 girls walk by. One stops for a second and then walks on. No one bends over. I crawl around, collect. People look and turn away. Someone giggles. I'm at home. I sit. I'm silent. Hands on my knees. Eyes on the floor. Then I get up. I go to the desk. I open my notebook. September 28, Constantine. Didn't pick up the phone. 5th time. 4:32 p.m. Doctor, Grandpa doesn't understand anything. Last name, Stetsenko. Room 203. Grandson. Laughs. Says, I'm moving closer to the center. These are no longer just notes. This is a structure. As before, in business. Connections. Events. Consequences. People think that I'm gray, so I forget. But I've never remembered better. My body can fail. But my mind is clearer than ever. I observe. I analyze. I'm drawing a map. Pain is not weakness. Pain is pressure. And where there is pressure, there will soon be a breakthrough. I'm not planning on rage. There will be no screaming, no scandals, no reproaches. No one will get a chance to say, he's gone crazy. No. Everything will be quiet. Cold. Calculated. I'm not old. I'm an archive. And in this archive, a chapter will soon open that no one expects. It always seemed to me that humiliation had a sound. Screams, whispers, mockery. But no, real humiliation is heard in silence. When you lie on the asphalt, and people walk by, like a stone passing by. I was pushed by accident. The packages flew. I fell. I lay. I listened to the milk flowing into the sewer, as someone laughed and said, nobody needs it. It's written off. I didn't get up right away. I lay. I needed to hear it. To taste it. To remember it. Because at that very moment, something clicked inside me. It didn't break, it switched. Every cell that had still been holding on to hope began to speak a language that I remember well, the language of strategy. At home, I didn't sit down in a chair. I didn't make tea. I went to the pantry. I got out the key. I opened the safe. Inside was an old telephone with buttons. Under it is a notebook, from the days when everything was alive. Yellowed pages with names, contacts, notes. People who owe me. Not money. Life. I open a drawer with archives. There are copies of agreements, invoices, photos, flash drives. Everything that was once, just in case. This case has come. Some think that old age is the end. In fact, it is a filter. It leaves only the most important things. I no longer think about other people's emotions, I don't worry about not offending. My steps become more precise when my heart is cold. I find an old acquaintance, a lawyer, for whom I once won a case when everyone else gave up on him. An anonymous letter, and his new boss loses his license for fraud. I leave him another envelope. Now he works for me. No questions asked. Next is an IT guy who used to configure my servers at night when others threatened hacker attacks. He gets a task. Information leak. Hacked archives. The path to vulnerabilities. I used to be a manager. Now I'm a ghost pulling strings. Son. Constantine receives an anonymous file in the mail, an extract from the accounting department, hidden income, suspicious transactions. Everything is drawn up in the style of an internal investigation. In a week he will lose his managerial position. The media is already waiting. Grandson. His subscribers see screenshots of correspondence with obscene jokes about people with disabilities. It's true. He himself once laughed at my hearing aid. Now they laugh at him. The brand withdraws the contract. The page is blocked. The nurse from the hospital, the one who despised me, suddenly gets a check. Someone sends a photo of her drinking coffee in the park during working hours. A small scandal. And the loss of her position. No one guesses. I don't subscribe. I don't call. I don't leave a trace. But something changes at home. My son writes more often. No smileys. No, how are you? Just, can I come over? The grandson sends a childhood photo. He writes, "Do you remember when we went to the lake?" I don't answer. My silence is my new voice. It cuts better than a reproach. I'm no longer a grandfather. I'm the architect of a shadow. And this shadow doesn't scare. It educates. I no longer live by the days of the week. I don't have a Monday or a Saturday. There are only events. Results. Impact. Every morning begins with watching the news, emails, screenshots. Not out of curiosity, out of control. Not long ago, I was a nobody. And now, the invisible conductor of their chaos. My son now walks in circles like a driven beast. His dismissal is just the tip of the iceberg. After him came inspections. Questions. Statements. The people he once rude to suddenly remembered it. His support disappeared. And his pride, which was based on status, crumbled like plaster from an old wall. I didn't touch him physically. I didn't say a word. I simply revealed to the world what he himself wanted to hide. I left him only a mirror. My grandson, once self-confident, now disappears from the internet. Brands are silent. Colleagues are distancing themselves. He tries to record a video with tears, an apology, says he was different. I don't react. I don't like. I don't look. And in this indifference, punishment. Those I noticed in my notebook began to lose more than they refused me. The irony is that no one is looking for the culprit. Because they are not used to seeing a threat in a person who doesn't raise his voice, doesn't push the door, doesn't come. I am like a draft. I am not visible, but I change the temperature of the room. The nurse who laughed at my hearing no longer works at the hospital. Another one has taken her place. Quiet. Attentive. I come for tests, now they greet me with respect. She doesn't know why. But she feels, I am not who I seem. Packages have started to appear in the house. A set of teas from Alina. A frame with a photo from Kostya. A postcard from my grandson, "You were right." I'm sorry I laughed. I don't answer. It's not anger that keeps me silent. It's a calculated necessity. Their fear is not of me. They're afraid of what happened to them when I disappeared. They lived in a world where they thought they ruled. But real power isn't in money, or in volume. Real power is in the ability to make people look at themselves. Without a mask. Without likes. Without protection. I was invisible. Now I'm invisible. They can't see me anymore, but they can feel me. I don't tell them what I did, and that's what scares me the most. My house is tidy again. The dust has been wiped off. The tea is hot. And on the table is a new notebook. Clean. The blank pages are waiting. Because I don't plan on stopping. Those who laughed yesterday have fallen silent today. And that's the best compliment. I don't break people. I show them their true nature. And they break themselves. My living room doesn't look like itself today. The table is set. The chairs are arranged. The cups are placed evenly, like the meetings I used to hold, everything is thought out, without chaos. The door opens. The children come in. First, Constantine, depressed, like a person who has just buried his own ego. Then Alina, in an expensive coat, but with the eyes of that little girl who was afraid of thunder. The grandchildren are here too. Without their phones. They sit next to each other, like those who have finally realized that no one else is to blame for them. The silence lasts a long time. They wait for me to speak. For me to start forgiving sins, for me to tell them why everything happened. I say nothing. My silence is a mirror they are afraid to look into. It's not that I took revenge that hurts them. It hurts them that I didn't say it was me. They are not sure. And this uncertainty is their sentence. When we are silent, they try to heal with words. We want to establish a connection, maybe something has changed. We are not perfect either. But I know, they are not talking to me. They are talking in front of me. And the way Alina straightens her napkin, the way Constantine turns his spoon, these are all apologies. Without wording. I accept them. Without mercy. Without sentimentality. Simply, as a fact. Because the main thing has already happened. They stopped considering me an empty place. And although they do not know how I did what I did, for the first time in many years they remembered who I was. But I am not the same anymore. I do not need words. I do not wait for forgiveness. I do not ask for love. I am a memory. I am a warning. They are about to leave. The grandson stays for a moment and asks, "Grandpa, are you happy?" I look at him. Not with warmth, but not with coldness either. With clarity. And I say, happiness is when no one dares to despise you anymore. He nods. For the first time, like an adult. Not afraid. Not running away. Not hiding behind jokes. They leave. The door closes. I am left alone. But not lonely anymore. Simply, self-sufficient. I sit in my chair. I open my diary. I write, November 5th. Old age is not the end. It is a form of strength that is feared, because it does not shout, does not ask, does not prove. It sees. And is silent. I put an end to it. Not the last. Simply, today's.
Subscribe and like this video, more interesting revenge stories of elderly people coming soon.